What's up, 2K crew? Welcome to episode number 30 motherfucking 9. And for those of you on YouTube, what's up? How we doing? Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that little bell. And for those of you that are watching, you notice there's something different. Either 2Ks has gotten a little more sexy, or that means Christian Hutson is in the building. It's not the
first
today.
one. It's not the first one.
Welcome, my friend. How you doing?
Good. Good.
Yeah, and for those of you who are wondering, 2Ks is on his, I think, 7th vacation since we started this in February. So, which, of all the vacations he's taken, this is the one I wouldn't want to go on. To go up north when it's this fucking cold. No, count me out. Count me out.
Family trip.
Yeah. He was saying that it's pretty much just a lot of drinking.
Yeah.
Which I could get firmly behind that. But before we jump off here, I did want to give a big 2K crew shout out to Mr. Andrew Saddlemeyer. And Andy, if I did butcher your last name, I do apologize. Thanks for the kind comments, my friend, and the really cool banter. So I figured I'd give you a shout out at the top of the show, brother. Keep on listening, keep on sharing. Well, you know what? 2Ks, or not 2Ks, but Mr. Hudson, you were kind of the spearhead of the kind of pay to play conversation with us.
Mm-hmm.
And as we all saw, the NCAA came out with a rule that they're going to allow this nationwide. So I figured while you're here, we'd touch base on it and kind of remind our listeners again, this isn't the conversation that it's not the same conversation as we had on that episode. Yep. We were more referring to the college. The
college is paying. Yeah.
Where with this rule or law, I guess you could say, well, it's NCAA, it's a rule now. They're going to be able to make money off their likeness, name, number, jersey sales. Mm-hmm. Or basically, what it means is that they're going to be able to make appearances to sign memorabilia, make appearances, and actually make a little money on the side.
Yep.
Now, for those of you that are wondering what kind of spurred this all, we talked about the California law. Florida did the same thing, and North and South Carolina were going to follow, as well as New York. And when you just look at college football and basketball, those are your biggest fucking markets. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could take all of those and then bundle the Midwest, and the Midwest might be as equal as just those markets. So we kind of all knew something was going to happen. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this rule isn't going into effect until 2021. I almost said 2011. So the NCAA left it very wide open and very gray. They didn't put any regulations or stipulations on anything. So we shall see where it comes from here. And as we always do, we will keep you guys and gals updated. Christian, there's a big elephant in the room right now. It's a big elephant in the room.
What's that?
Well, half of it's good, half of it's bad. And for what I'm referring to is the colossal beatdown last Saturday of our Irish.
I forgot about it.
Yeah, well, thankfully, Facebook and everyone else didn't let me forget about it. But you know what? Like I said, there's good and bad. There's good and bad. Obviously, the bad is I don't think Notre Dame left South Bend. The good part is I'm glad Michigan fans are still alive because I hadn't heard from them all year. So welcome back to the college football talk, Michigan fans. And we had your seat right now was a hot fucking seat. There were so many people just aching to come on to be a co-host this week. And I said, not a fucking chance. Not a fucking chance. I mean, I am more than happy to have conversations with Michigan fans about the Notre Dame Michigan rivalry. I have no problem with that. But when your fandom is just only one-sided, you don't see the other side, and this is the only game you watch for Michigan football, I really don't think we need to have a conversation. But I did want to say thank you, and thank you for everyone that volunteered their time to come on the show. But I wasn't ready for that, and this is It's something it took me a couple days to kind of come to grips to, but it's one of these things where if you are going to put your voice out, if you are going to put the content out, you kind of have to have some thicker skin. So, but yeah, it hit me, it hurt me. I've got great pride.
You know what? Here's how I look at it. Jim Harbaugh. He flat out outcoached Brian Kelly. He stacked 9 guys in the box and said, "Okay, Ian Book, beat me.
Yep,
beat me in this weather. Ian Book can't beat you in a dry weather." Okay, Brian Kelly didn't make. I didn't see any adjustments. I didn't see, they ran all over us. Why didn't we stack the box and say, Shea Patterson, beat us?
Because I'm pretty sure he went like 3 for 10 for 100 yards.
Yeah, something like that. And it's just, I didn't understand that.
There was a lot of that game, and that's one of the things I have written down here. We came out flat and never showed up, and aside from the national title game against Alabama, I don't think I've ever seen Coach Kelly that out-coached, out-schemed, and the team outplayed. So you've got 2 ND fans that are, loyal ND fans, which will both be ND fans after this and further on, that our team fucking sucked.
Yep.
They fucking sucked. They had everything ahead of them, and now had it been, kind of the game that Kyle and I predicted, a 21-10, 24-14, somewhere in there. All right, I get that. But not, what was it, 45-14?
Yeah.
Unreal. Fucking unreal.
Not my worst day.
No.
Then Notre Dame had the hangover yesterday. They looked like crap yesterday, too. They got lucky at the end, came down, and, thank God.
They couldn't even score on a drive that the refs were giving them. Yeah. I don't understand the play calls. There's a lot of things I don't understand. And when Chris Sims, of all people, is saying, well, this is the reason the Irish are getting just gashed on run defense, you have 5 guys.
Yep. Yeah. And that quarterback wasn't going to beat you with his arm either. He's beating you with his legs.
No, he might beat your ass in the parking lot. Yeah. That's a big dude.
What they say, 250? 6'4", 250? That's a big dude.
Not quite as agile as Cam, but physically probably about the same. Either that or what was that kid out of Oklahoma? Bill Dozer, something like that.
He was a tank.
Just a big ass kid. But yeah, and Michigan obviously didn't have a hangover.
No.
And now one of the greatest intrigues in college football is Maryland at the beginning of the season was scoring 70 every fucking game, and it's one of those tales where they came back down to earth. And I kind of expected, if you watch that game, the score was not an indicator of how well Maryland moved the ball. They just couldn't. Once they got in the red zone, they just couldn't do anything with it. So it is what it is, and you know what? At the end of the day, Notre Dame and Michigan both are 2 losses. Both losses are from top 10 teams. We're ranked 14 and 15 now, which is about where we should be. Do either one of us have a chance to do anything spectacular in the postseason? Probably not.
And don't tell Shea Patterson that. See that article?
I did not.
That Holly, the girl that does the sideline reporting, said something. How's it feel? And he goes, "Oh, I think we're still on track for all of our, our goals for the season." She goes, "Do you still think you make the playoffs?" And he laughed at her and said, "What do you think?" or something, or "Of course," or something like that. And then one of the other broadcasters like, "Well, Holly, maybe you should have laughed at him, saying no, there's no chance for you to get in the playoffs."
No. Yeah. I mean, is there a chance? Yeah, 1 in a million. Yeah. So you're telling me there's a chance? You're a 2-loss team, if I'm not mistaken, sitting 3rd in your side of the Big Ten with an unbeaten Ohio State, which I mean,
say you beat Ohio State, they're still in 2nd.
Yeah,
because was it Penn State and Ohio State would be tied for 1st? Obviously, they're going to play each other.
I mean, granted, is it possible that both of them come into the last game of the season with 2 losses? Yeah. Do I think it's feasible? No. And if you look at Michigan's schedule going forward, it's not that easy. It's not.
I haven't seen who they have.
I did, and I totally forgot to write it down. But because I know they still have Michigan State coming up, which who knows which Michigan State team is going to fucking show up. And I just don't see it. You know, that's not being a Notre Dame, Michigan hater. It's just being a realist. And shit,
Yeah, I think both our teams' playoff chances, there are none.
No.
There's none.
I mean, we might get a good bowl. That's about it. And, yeah, that's pretty much the tall and skinny of the season. So, from here on out. But what else did I have on here? Let's stay in the NCAA so we're not jumping around. We've got a big game coming up. Probably the biggest game so far of the year, if not probably the biggest game of the year.
Definitely is.
Number 1, LSU travels to number 2, Alabama. I think this is not going to be a 9-6 game like we've seen previous. I'd be curious to see what the over-under is going to be on this. And furthermore, I want to see how healthy Tua is. And even with a healthy Tua, I kind of made one of those lists. Like, which one would you take? Would you take Joe Burrow or Tua?
I like Joe Burrow.
I'm kind of leaning there. Joe Burrow seems to be that more consistent, not as flashy. He's not going to get you the 65-yarders.
Are you talking about taking for the next level or just for the week?
Just for the week.
Okay.
Just for the week.
Yeah, maybe probably Tua then.
Just for the week. Their defenses are pretty much a wash.
Yeah, I think whoever, and it's as in tradition, whoever wins the running game wins the ball game.
I couldn't even name you one of the, Bama usually has that one bruiser back.
Harris.
Yeah, and it just the running game hasn't been there as consistently as it has in the past. LSU seems to be a more balanced. I think their offensive line can control, if not push around.
I think it's going to be a hell of a game, that's for sure. It has all the makings to be.
Yeah.
One thing that I look at is you're going to Alabama. Going into Alabama, that's going to be tough.
And when you're going into Bama, and the opening line is 6.5.
Yeah.
So you're like, all right, 3 of them's home field. It's not.
Yeah.
And depending on the betting lines moving and everything, of course that's going to change. Of course that's going to change depending on where the money goes. But this game has more implications on it than I think any game so far.
Have you ever listened to Ed Odron's post game interviews? Can't understand a word he says.
No, he's like that Cajun dude on was it Waterboy?
Waterboy, yeah. Farmer Ted. Yeah, that's exactly what he sounds like.
Yeah, kudos to his players for understanding what the fuck he's saying, because none of us can. None of us can. And 2K Crew, we are recording on Sunday. We're watching the Lions at the Raiders. And if you have Mr. Jacobs in your fantasy league, he just got a touchdown. So this game could be actually really, really cool to watch too. Obviously, Morgan's stoked about it.
She's a Raiders fan.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, or just a Lions hater. Yeah.
Either word works.
Yeah. So now that we kind of got the football out of the way, at least the NCAA football, let's kind of switch gears to baseball and kind of talk about what was and what's going to be. And I was going to go out on a limb and say that all 7 of those games were jam-packed with pretty much awesomeness. But I don't think it's much of a limb to go out on. I mean, you had great pitching, great hitting, timely hitting, and something that neither one of us had seen before. The road team win all 7 games.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yes. Yeah, that blows my mind, especially coming home. If you're Houston, you're coming home and you got Verlander on the bump.
He kind of got bumped up a little bit.
He was, and he's drawing a lot of comparisons to the, like the Clayton Kershaw kind of what his postseason success or lack thereof. And with Verlander, it's not the postseason; it's the World Series.
Yep.
When is he? 0-7 now.
Yeah.
Only pitcher to be. Yep. I think there's one other dude that's 0-5. So with that lineup, I thought shit, this is in the bag. It's game 6 at home. Book it. Nope. And then you get to game 7, and I think out of all the games, Greinke might have thrown the best game for the
Were you surprised that Greinke threw instead of Cole?
No.
Or were you surprised that Cole didn't get used at all?
I was surprised he didn't come in, yeah. But if you, of course, hindsight's 20/20. Greinke's dealing.
Yeah.
He gives up the homer and then walks a guy.
Mm-hmm.
I would have stuck with him.
Yeah.
I would have stuck with him because he would have got you through the eighth.
Postseason is so much different from regular season because this regular season, he stays in there. Mm-hmm. And I think postseason, they I don't know, they blow stuff way out of proportion for some reason.
They're too overreactionary. And
so, I mean, like, how many games do you see starters like throwing 3 or 4 innings and that's it?
I even posted on Twitter before the game started. I said, which manager is going to overmanage this game? And now, big kudos to Scherzer. Mm-hmm. You know, he took a cortisone shot even to get out of bed, it seemed like. Yeah. Dude came out and spun a gem. I mean, they were pretty much locked head to head. And then
they had some players that just flat out stepped up in that World Series, though, too. Mm-hmm. I mean, Anthony Rendon, he's been doing it all year. Yeah. But Trey Turner had a series. Soto had a phenomenal series. Adam Eaton, I think he had 3 home runs in the World Series. And it's like, he maybe hit, I think he had 11 on the year. And something like that. And it was just.
You look at the defense for all those boys that you just named. Yeah. Fucking top notch.
Yes, they are.
Fucking top notch.
Adam Eaton's been one of my favorite players in the league for a few years.
So I picked the Astros to win.
So did I. Yeah.
Was I disappointed? Nope. Because that was a great story.
Well, you don't have any connections to either one of them, too, but you just are a fan of baseball.
Yeah. So it was a great series. I mean, it gave us everything that we wanted as baseball fans. And on top of that, it wrapped up way earlier than the NBA or the NHL and all those other playoffs that take for fucking ever. Yep. So, take a page out of MLB's book, and like especially the NBA. Mm-hmm. Gee, I mean the NHL too, but I don't pay that much attention.
Well, I think the thing with the NBA is, all right, the 1 seed will always play the 4 or 5. Well, the 1 seed is usually a 60-some win team, so they 4-game series there. In the 4 and 5, that usually goes 7.
Right.
So they're sitting there having to wait, a whole nother week, week and a half. It just takes forever.
So, and that's something that Kyle and I brought up, time and time again is, World Series, MLB postseason started, seemed like a flip of the switch. It was done. Yep. It was done. Quick and efficient, and they even had a rain out in there too. So, how that altered the New York Astros series, who knows? But, all in all, it was a great postseason. The only thing I would have changed is I really wish the Braves would have beat the Cards because I think they would have put up a better fight.
Braves they're still up and coming. They'll be there for a while.
Oh yeah.
They'll be there for a while.
Oh yeah. They're
barring injury.
Their roster's loaded and it just seems to. Yep. I mean, they seem like the new Astros. Yep. They just keep coming and coming and coming and coming.
I'll have to go through my White Sox here in a couple of years, but
which I laugh now, but they're on the same fucking track. Yeah. They're probably an arm and a bat away to be legitimate.
And like rumor has it is that they're going to go after Garrett Cole.
Every team in the league should.
And like what I read, there's about 3 teams. Well, Yankees are one. White Sox, and I can't remember the other one that was just like they're saying they're the front runners, and it's way too early to tell. But
I know one team that's not in that. It's the Red Sox.
Yeah. Gotta have money.
Yeah, well, they have money. They just don't want to spend it, unlike they used to. But we've got Dombrowski's out. We'll see what they they got to make a change up top to see where that everything goes. And I think they have bigger pressing issues. Do they? They're in my eyes. You cannot let Mookie Betts walk.
I think it's going to happen.
I would much rather let go JD. Be like, you know what?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you look at age too. JD's what, 33, 34, somewhere in there. Yeah. I mean, Betts would be, the guy you want to keep around between the two.
Yeah. I would, to be honest with you, I would much rather have Betts and let Chris Sale walk. As much as it pains me to say that.
He can come back to the South Side. I'd be about that.
But to me, that's how important he is to my Red Sox.
Just don't ever cut up those throwback jerseys ever again.
Well, I'm pretty sure he can't make any promises there. Can't make any promises there. All right. Well, since we're on the baseball talk, the postseason is done, so of course the off season and the hot stove gets fired up, and there's been a lot of. I wasn't able this weekend to kind of catch the, who the teams, picked up their option, turned down their option. The players that did the same thing. We've got plenty of time to get into that. But we kind of mentioned starting at the top. So there's been a lot of new coaches. Some of them very surprising, some of them not so surprising. But I figured we would kind of. And there's some of these that Kyle and I have talked about, so I wanted to get your 2 cents in. And the one I don't think surprised anybody was, I was kind of surprised that the Cubs let Madden walk. I get maybe they've grown apart.
I think they're button heads a little bit between him and the front office.
I think so. And Joe Madden's one of those guys. He can go coach where the fuck he wants.
Yeah, they just need a new voice. Like I still say this, I still think he's the best manager in baseball. Yeah, I really do.
He's one of the top 2 or 3 for me. So hands down. But they hired David Ross, and every Cubs fan will tell you that maybe David Ross's voice out of that clubhouse is what's been missing as far as the chemistry and as far as everything else, which might be true. He's the kind of the father figure to the team. Best friends with Anthony Rizzo.
And that's where I think it's going to come up to Biden, because they'll treat him as a friend, not a manager. I don't know. It could work 2 ways. I'm not sure.
The true test to me is when it's probably 3rd inning. Lester's on the mound. Lester's having a chunker, but he's working through. It's a Lester outing. He's working through it, but he's up to 70, 80 pitches in the 3rd inning. Ross has to go get him. For those of you that don't remember, Ross was his personal catcher. They have, even going back to when he was with Boston at times. So they have a great relationship. Now, kind of piggybacking off your point, has he been away long enough, or do the players respect him enough to not pitch a fit?
That's what I'll be interested to watch and see.
Because if they do, and if the team welcomes him as a coach and not as a best friend, I don't see anything wrong with this. I think everything, there's nothing but positives. Like I said, the only negative is, and I'm right there with you, is how is the friendship, mentorship?
Yeah, there's going to have to be a fine line that. They're going to have to set boundaries on things. So, David Ross, he was obviously a catcher. I think he knows the game pretty well.
Hell of a dancer, too.
Yeah, we'll see. Looking at it, was David Ross a great player? No.
He'll be the first to admit it.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. But I think people respect him because his knowledge for the game. All the games he's caught, everything, being on that World Series team. But I just, after watching, some interviews with some players and stuff, I really wonder what it's going to be like in that clubhouse. Is it going to be, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want? Because what's he going to do? Yell at me?
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're going to go have beers afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, like I said, it could be one of the greatest hires of the year. Who knows? But I just can't emphasize it enough. I think the Phillies getting Girardi, I like that. I like that.
Gabe Kapler was in over his head.
Yeah. I think Gabe Kapler would be a very good manager one day, but to have might not have been the right roster for him to come into.
And the dude's jacked too.
Yeah. Yeah,
he's jacked. Spend some more time in the gym. Get everything tuned out.
Yep.
He'll be back.
Yep, and he's one of those guys that he's young, not too far removed from the game. The game's still fresh, and some people could say that Girardi's behind the times. The Yankees, when he was there, they didn't dive too far into analytics. They didn't do a whole lot of shifting. he kind of ran that with an iron fist type instead of like the Joe Madden being the more like bring your personality to the game.
Yep.
And would be kind of cool to see maybe Girardi wants to grow a goatee, maybe a beard, because
He'll be able to.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see. And there's a lot of analysts who are like, well, I don't know how he'll do with Bryce. You fucking kidding me? Look at every ego that was in that Yankee dugout, and he kept them together.
Yeah.
They were in, they won a World Series. We're in the playoffs, I think, all but the last 2 years he was there. And maybe the last year. But, that's when Rivera retired, Jeter retired, and A-Rod, and that whole thing. So you're looking at a lot of leadership.
Yeah. He dealt with a lot of crap.
Yeah. And in my opinion, dealt with it amazingly. You never heard of any of his players doing anything stupid.
And to follow somebody like Joe Torre, how are you going to do that? That's a lose-lose.
I think he did it magically and did it as best as he could.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you don't win a World Series, you're a failure.
Right.
And that's just how the Yankees are, though, period. But then you have a manager come in right after Joe Torre, and...
Yeah, you never want it. Well, it's kind of like Didi coming in after Jeets.
Yep.
And I think Didi's been doing just fine.
Fantastic, yeah.
Doing just fine. And next on the list, Angels get their guy in Joe Madden.
It's a good hire.
This is one of the ones that Kyle and I talked about. I didn't know his past with the organization. I just felt like, Madden's more of the progressive type of thinker. We're in the United States where that benefit the most, LA, and both Kyle and I were pretty adamant, thumping our chest like, San Diego, hire this motherfucker, which I still think would have been amazing. But when it comes down to it, I think he's the perfect manager to try to get a grasp on this on Ohtani. He's got the best player in the fucking world.
Yeah, they're lacking pitching. That's been there.
Yeah, and look what Madden did, even especially when he was with Tampa. If they give him long enough,
I think he'll have to go back to a lot of what he did in Tampa. Yeah. Where in Chicago, he had way more talent than what he ever had.
Yeah.
So he could kind of take a step back, but I think he's going to have to go back to what he was doing.
But in Chicago, it wasn't the homegrown talent.
No.
It was the bought and traded talent.
Yep.
Where and we even touched on it with Skaggs, it's unfortunate what happened with him, but I think he would be one of those ones that would benefit a lot from Joe Madden being there. And they do have some of those homegrown talent. So
they have some. It seems like all of their prospects that they're huge on are all outfielders. Every single one of them.
Which, one of the outfield spots is going to be taken for quite a while.
Yeah. So there's going to be some trades.
Oh,
I guarantee it. Bring in some pitching. They need to solidify a shortstop position. They need another big bat for protection.
Isn't Simmons there? And I know he's his stick isn't there all the time.
No, it's not what it was, a few years ago.
No, but defensively,
defensively he's a stud. But they need another big bat in the lineup. They need a lot of things, but pitching has got to be priority number one. And then I read that JD Martinez, LA. That'd be some good, protection.
Yeah, especially if the Red Sox could keep Mookie Betts. I'd be all right with that.
Yeah,
I'd be all right with that. And like I said, I didn't know his lineage with Mike Scioscia and all of that out there. So it's kind of a feel good story. They got who they wanted, and like you and I talked about, he could have went anywhere.
Yeah,
and probably wrote his own check.
Yep.
So for them to get their guys, he was the first domino to fall, which I think as soon as he left Chicago, everyone knew where he was going. And he entertained some interviews here and there, but I think it was kind of a foregone conclusion.
It was either I had a gut feeling that he might end up with the Mets. That was like my first thought. My first thought was New York Mets, but I mean, shoot, with that pitching staff they have out there, talk about underachievers.
Yes. Then even the young studs in the field with Alonso and all that. They're a very young team. That wouldn't have been a bad fit either.
Yeah.
And then, speaking of the Mets, I think the shocker for the whole list here is Carlos Beltran. Carlos Beltran. I didn't see this coming. I didn't know he was looking to be a manager.
He might have been on their bench last year.
He might have. All right. So I didn't know he had any experience, to be honest with you.
He might have been.
So, I mean, like David Ross.
Yeah. You knew he was going to coach sometime.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like Veritek.
Yep.
It's just when and where.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was a lot of people that were up in arms that the Red Sox didn't hire him, and they hired Cora.
Mm-hmm.
But the Red Sox were bringing up our point. They don't think he's...
He was just yet. Yep.
He wasn't far enough removed.
Mm-hmm. So,
but yeah, that's going to be a wild card. And of course, I think one of the reasons Mickey Callaway isn't around anymore is he wasn't playing ball with the executives there.
Yep.
He wanted to do his thing.
Yep.
So let's see if Beltran is actually allowed to manage, or is he just going to be a fucking puppet?
Yeah.
If he's just going to be a puppet, then you could have put anybody in there.
Yep.
No,
nothing's going to change.
And it's sad because you're going to waste prime years in these stud careers, and maybe with their trading for Stroman last year, kind of solidified that they're not tanking, and they're legit about moving forward. But they still have to overcome the Braves in that division. Obviously, the Nats. So, do they have the tools to do it? Absolutely.
Don't count out the Phillies, though, man.
No.
Yeah, no. Phillies are going to be there, too.
No, that NL East is going to be savage, except for the Marlins.
Yeah,
Thank you, Derek Jeter. Poor Don Mattingly.
Yeah.
Don Mattingly's like, Jesus.
Yeah. Donnie Baseball, yeah. He's getting a bad rap right now.
Right now, he's Donnie Paychecks.
Yeah.
Seems about the only reason Jeets keeps him around.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, hey, if you're getting paid to do that, more power to you. And then, you and I were talking before we hit record here. The Royals get their guy in Mike Matheny, which I think is a very sneaky good hire. I think the Cards, kind of let up on him too early.
Yep, I agree 110% on that.
But hindsight,
they did just fine.
Yeah. They ended up just fine.
Yeah,
So
I mean, Cardinals are always going to be that steady franchise.
Yeah,
just like the Giants, they're always just going to be steady. Mike Matheny, it's a good hire.
And again, another catcher.
Yeah.
Another catcher.
Yeah, like I was telling you earlier, I said I actually read his book, which, that means I actually sat down and read a book. I was glued to it. The guy,
without crayons.
Yeah. Well, debatable. I colored on some pages. Yeah. The guy, he's just, I wasn't listening, but just seeing and, kind of gathering what he sees in the game and what he does, how he feels about things. I was like, man, I really like this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I really like this guy. And I ended up reading that book in like a week. And
was it like 64 pages?
32.
Okay.
But yeah, it's phenomenal. But he'll do well. I like Ned Yost. I liked him.
I was a big Ned Yost fan too.
But like we said, it's just time for another voice.
And I think what made that the Ned Yost, the break in the relationship was, I think the team was going in one direction and he wanted to go the other.
Yep.
I don't think there's anything bad happened on either parties. It's just that
when you don't
this
bring
isn't
back
the right time.
You don't bring back, Lorenzo Cain, Moustakas, all those guys, that core that won you the World Series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the writing was on the wall. The only one they kept was Salvador Perez.
Yeah, and
Alex Gordon's still there.
No, actually, speaking of the players' options and everything, they didn't extend Gordon his options. He's a free agent.
He is. I mean, I was talking about last year.
Yeah.
He's probably 35, 36 years old though too. But
Salvador was hurt all year, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was hurt, and he's a young catcher too. So I think that'll be a good
stud.
Yeah, that'll be a good combination with those two.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, shit. You go from Yachty to Salvi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you're
two of the best in the business.
Yeah, and Salvador Perez is probably one of the best arms.
Mm-hmm.
South of Pudge that I've ever seen.
And he can hit.
Yeah,
dude can hit.
Yeah, Yachty had a couple years there where his hitting wasn't. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think it had a lot to do with this chronic thumb injuries and stuff. This year he was healthy and raked. I mean, for a catcher, raked.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I didn't even think about that part of it, but yeah, you're very right. And then lastly, to wrap up on this list, the Padres get their guy, Jace Tingler.
Tickler.
Of course, they had Andy Green there. I don't know who the fuck Andy Green was either. But yeah, I actually had to Google who the fuck Jace Tingler. He was one of the player development coaches for like the last 4 or 5 years in the Texas Rangers organization. And if you Google Mr. Tingler, it'll say his name, then first time MLB head coach. And you're like, no shit.
Yeah.
No shit. And you know what? As is with a lot of these guys.
Another young guy.
I mean, you got Girardi, Madden, and Matheny, the only ones that have, any big league experience. So now my question to you is, you have a lot of, there's pretty much two schools of thought here. You have your old grizzled baseball vets, kind of like the ones we just mentioned, or you have the move to the younger, more energetic ex-players. And I could see arguments for either side, but this was a topic I was reading online, saying how that with analytics and this insurgence of younger coaches are pushing these great baseball minds out. And I don't think that's the case. I just think it's the case that a lot of these guys are getting fucking old. Mm-hmm. You look at the two teams that we didn't mention that don't have coaches yet are the Giants and Pittsburgh. Bochy retired.
Yep.
Which Boch is going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Hands down. He's one of those guys getting a little long in the tooth. I mean, you could say a lot, kind of the same with Gardenhire. But I think it all depends on the situation that your club is in. If your situation has a lot of this is how they react to it. As a player, do you react to the encouraging, or do you react to the get your shit and let's fucking go?
I think if you have a younger roster, I would honestly rather have a guy that sets a standard. Uh-huh. You gotta be doing that. For a younger group like San Diego, I'd rather have an experienced guy come in there.
Yes,
but
it's like that's why I think
maybe that's why I'm not a GM.
No, I'm right there with you, and that's why I've argued with folks. I think Gardenhire's the right person in Detroit right now. The only other person I would put there is Madden.
Yeah,
that's about the only one.
Gardenhire's it's unfortunate, I think, because he's just going to be the guy that he's going to sit in that dugout and take his ass whoopings for a couple of years. And as soon as they start to turn around, it's going to be somebody new.
Yeah,
or unless he retires before that, which after going through last season, I would have hung him up about halfway through.
But yeah, when you have a great baseball mind like that, and now especially with the Tigers, they're not bringing back McClendon as the hitting coach. Mm-hmm. Maybe they can actually fucking hit.
Long overdue.
Oh God, yes. Probably
get
about
Gene
15
Lamont
years.
out of that dugout too.
Yeah, just do it.
Clean house.
Yeah, let him pick his own staff. Yeah. And another one that's out, I was kind of shocked with is was it Rothschild, the pitching coach for the Yankees?
Yankees, yep.
It didn't shock me that they parted ways, but it kind of did.
Mm-hmm. He's been there for a while.
Yeah. That'd be. I mean, I'm not saying the two are on equal ground at all, but Maddox in St. Louis, he's been there for fucking ever. But you look at how the success that his pitchers have had, and they haven't had Wainwright's the only like quote unquote big name they've had. Look at the big names that the Yankees have had, probably 10-1 compared to what the Cardinals have. So. But to the folks that are just saying that these young minds are running all these all the vets out, I don't think that's the case at all. I don't, because you're going to see Ned Yost pretty much pick whatever he wants to. If he wants to come back right now, if I was him, I'd probably wait till next year, considering the job openings. I mean, unless you want to go to San Fran, I wouldn't go to Pittsburgh right now. Josh Bell's about the only one I'd want to coach in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think he's in the big time trade rumors right now.
Which, for him, kudos, because you're not going to win shit in Pittsburgh. And that kid's too much of a fucking talent.
Yeah. I'd take him on the south side.
I think there's about 30 teams that would. Yeah. Slide him into first, have Abreu be your DH. That'd be a nice 3-4 for a while. Especially a switch hitter like him.
Yeah.
This one, young as shit. Well, all right. Anything you want to add to the baseball convo until we wrap, so we can wrap it up? Let's go to our most favorite game that's sweeping the motherfucking nation. Paycheck and motherfucking Onions. Paycheck and Onions. So, and actually, I do need to give it up to 2Ks. He actually did text in his picks. And he did it. I don't remember if I told him we were recording today or yesterday, but he texted in super early yesterday. So, Mr. 2Ks, I do appreciate that. And to kind of give a scoring update, 2Ks is at 32, and I'm dominating at 35. 35. Well, Mr. Christian, what is your first pick'em game? Where did you go?
Bears over Lions. Yep. Which
that's in Chicago, right?
Yes. Yes, because in 2 weeks they're in Detroit for Thanksgiving.
Well, all of us had a little hint of the NFC North because I went the other way. I went Lions over Bears. And the only reason I went Lions over Bears is I think the defenses are about the same. The skill players are about the same. I'm taking Stafford over Mitch.
Or Trubisky.
Yep, that's the only reason why I'm taking the Lions, because I think Stafford's in a much better spot right now than Mitch is. And 2Ks went Packers over the Panthers. So let's stick with 2Ks here. He's going to the Big Ten and picking Wisconsin over Iowa. And I think that has
That could be a good game. That could be a really good game.
That has the potential to be another 14-10, 13-10.
Yep.
It just, in my opinion, it depends which fucking Wisconsin team shows up. Is it the Wisconsin team that ran all over Michigan and the whole front side of their schedule? Or is it the last couple weeks? Yeah. And, this might be the game that gets Jonathan Taylor back on track. But that's a pretty stout Iowa defense.
Yes, it is. And
can Iowa move the ball on Wisconsin's defense? Can Wisconsin's defense get it back to where it is or where it was? But no, that has the makings of being a very, very good game. And I'm actually looking forward and hoping that's televised because I really, really want to watch that one. Where did you go in your second one?
I went Vikings over Cowboys.
Ooh. Now, did you do that to spite 2Ks or just
a little bit of both?
I figured.
I don't know. You just don't know what you're going to get out of Dallas. And Vikings have been playing good football the last few weeks. They got beat today. But,
Kansas City did
hit the last second field goal.
Did nudge them out.
Yeah.
Fucking Matt Moore.
I think Vikings' run defense is pretty dang good.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty dang good, and it's going to have to be Dak Prescott, I think.
And which Dak shows up?
Yep.
Which Dak shows up? He's
and which Cousins shows up?
Yeah. He played a great game today. Yeah. Was it?
He was the NFL Player of the Month last month.
Yeah, he won me some money on DraftKings as well. And then again, is Adam Thielen going to be healthy? Yeah. He tried to go today and didn't.
Late scratch.
Yeah. Oh, he was a late scratch.
I think so.
I know.
He didn't do anything if he did go.
Yeah. So it's how healthy is he? Mm-hmm. Diggs didn't have a great game today, so that's definitely a game to keep an eye on for sure. Yeah, that's a good pick. Excuse me. I went Wake Forest at Virginia Tech, and this might be a reaction just because of the Virginia Tech Notre Dame game, but Wake is actually favored in this one. But I went Vatek. I went Vatek.
I was impressed with them, man. Their defense is tough. It really is.
They always are.
Yeah.
They always are. Yep. Defense and special teams is what they hang their hat on. And that quarterback, Jesus Christ, that kid's huge.
If he can figure out how to throw the ball, he'd be dangerous.
Well, Cam Newton could too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because just body type wise, they're similar. Now, obviously, Cam's a little bit quicker, more elusive, but
that kid will run your ass over.
Yeah. Yeah, and as far as containing him and keeping him around, I was very impressed at what
they do those zone reads, and he was pretty dang good at them.
But just Notre Dame's tackling on him overall, that was probably one of the shinier points. But so yeah, I kind of went with a homer pick, I guess. And I'm going my last pick'em. I'm staying in the Big Ten. Big Ten's got some good games next week, Christian. They got some good games. You know, we've already talked about the Wisconsin-Iowa game. Penn State at Minnesota. Minnesota's undefeated, aren't they?
Yep.
PJ Fleck got them rowing the boat. PJ Fleck might be rowing that boat to Ann Arbor.
Or South Bend.
Yeah, or either or. I mean,
I'd take him.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm taking Penn State to go in and beat them.
See, I went the opposite direction.
You went Minnesota?
Yeah. I went the opposite.
Now, if this game was in Penn State at Happy Valley,
but
I'd be more on the Penn State side.
That was like going on a limb. That's kind of like my upset pick.
But that should be a great game.
Yeah.
That should be a great game. And you know what? If PJ pulls it, PJ and the boys pull it off. I mean, Penn State's number 5 in the country now?
Something like that.
Man, that'd be a huge win.
Yes, it would.
Huge win for him, the program, and the poll I put up on Twitter was, will Minnesota win their side of the Big Ten? They have a 2-game lead up on Wisconsin right now. And there it was 65% said no. I was kind of shocked at that. And then I looked at their schedule.
And see they haven't played.
Yeah. So
it truly is the real. So they've had some close games earlier this year. I mean, against not very good teams,
right?
But it's their first true test, which I think Georgia Southern was like. I think it was like a 38-31 win or something like that. It's, I don't know, but
especially if you look at where they came from last year to this year. Big props.
7-5 last year, something like that.
I don't know. I thought they were worse than that.
No, I think they made a bowl. They were in a bowl game.
But PJ's been coaching them up.
Yeah,
I love it. And 2Ks went with the big daddy of the weekend. He's going LSU over Bama. LSU over Bama. We both kind of touched on that, and with that, there's really I guarantee you're going to hear about it all fucking week, and it's going to be one of those games. I was
hearing about it yesterday during all the other games were going on.
Oh yeah, well yeah, if you're ever in need for like a very nice short podcast, College Football Live, what they do is they take their show that's on TV and then make it audio. Yeah. It's 22 minutes.
Yeah.
22 minutes. They hit all the high points. And they were talking about it 2 weeks ago. So, right after Tua went down, that's the first thing they were talking about. So, that one's kind of I could see it going either way. And it's going to have to, I think it's going, if Tua doesn't play, there's no way Bama's winning. I'm throwing that out right there, right now.
Whoever controls the running game will win this game.
All right. And just to kind of piggyback off that, my Onions game, I took LSU over Bama. Where did you go, Christian?
I went the same way. LSU over Bama. Yep.
And 2K's kind of went back with one of my picks, but going opposite. He's going Minnesota over Penn State. So I think he went with you, didn't Yeah. And what is your paycheck game?
Notre Dame over Duke.
All right.
Notre Dame. I want to see Notre Dame, win by about 40 points. Something needs to click with them right now. And if not, it's time to start grooming somebody else at the quarterback spot. Notre Dame will not be elite until they have an elite quarterback. It will not take that next step.
And I think you could say that a lot, the same thing with Michigan.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
And, there's, and especially as a Notre Dame fan, it's so frustrating because we do get the 4 and 5 stars. Mm-hmm. Where the fuck do they go? Yeah. What happens? And now, if Ian Book would have started since his freshman year, I think now he would be that elite quarterback. I think right now he's at the point where he's at that Peyton Manning happy feet, fidgety, not reading the defense, just
getting it out.
Yeah, which you would see in like a late first year into a second year quarterback, which is what he is. And he took took the whole country by storm last year.
You know what he is? He's exactly their quarterback coach, Tommy Rees.
Yep,
that's exactly what he is.
Very, very. Their games are very similar.
I think Book is way more athletic. Scramble a lot better, but throwing the ball wise, I see a lot of similarities. And Tommy Rees, I mean, he wasn't bad, but he just wasn't.
Tommy Rees had a lot of fucking weapons.
Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah,
a lot, both in the running back, the receivers, and. When Tommy was there, that was
probably still tight end you.
Yeah, that was the start.
I think it's starting to come back.
Yes.
Yeah, Cole Kmet is a freaking stud, and we just signed 2 other. I think we got the number 1 tight end and like a number 3 tight end coming in too. Yeah. So we'll see.
Cole is amazing. Yep. I mean,
and he can throw 95 off the mound.
Can he really?
Yeah, he's on the baseball team.
Hey, maybe we have another up and coming Samardzija. Yep. So he's what, a sophomore?
Yep.
Yeah, I think whenever he decides to leave, he's going to be a first-round pick.
Yeah. He's tough.
And he's huge.
Yep.
Huge and agile. I mean, he runs better than Tyler Eifert.
I don't know about runs. I compare him a lot to Rudolph. Okay. If there's a tight end. Because Eifert split out wide a lot. Yeah. Like, he was the outside threat. Mm-hmm. Where Kmet is still inside quite a bit. He'll line up in the slot a lot like Kyle Rudolph did. Mm-hmm. Good, 2 very good pass catchers at tight end spot and good blockers.
Speaking of Rudolph, I think the emergence of Cousins going back to him has kind of led them.
Well, I was watching it one day, and Terry Bradshaw was like, well, that's when Cousins was struggling. He's like, they got a great pass-catching tight end. They're not even using him.
Right.
Using him to run block. That's about it. They're keeping him in.
He's a top 5.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably the most underrated top 5 tight end in the game. Yeah. All right. Did you give your paycheck game?
It was Notre Dame over Duke.
Okay. I know we got kind of sidetracked. Yeah. I'm going Big Ten. Maryland travels to Ohio State.
Jeez. Going out on a limb, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's a paycheck game. It's a paycheck game. And you could use this could be a good litmus test to see how the score difference between Michigan, Maryland as opposed to Ohio State, Maryland. I know there's going to be a lot of people that want to read into it like that. I'm not so much interested in that. I'm just interested in I don't think in the regular season, I don't think there's anyone that's going to come close to Ohio State. You could put them as a paycheck game every fucking week. And I don't think I have put them in a paycheck game, so I might as well use it instead of lose it. And 2Ks is going Saints over Falcons, especially the way Drew Brees is balling out. He's on my fantasy team. I didn't start him last week. Of course, this week's their bye. And I was a little hesitant. It's like, all right, I want to see how good this thumb is.
Look what Teddy Two Gloves did with that offense, man. You throw Drew Brees in there, magic's going to happen.
And I didn't start Latavius Murray because Kamara was out. Yeah. I still won. Yeah. But it would have been nice to would have been nice to hang about 35 more points. I think that's all of our picks, right? All right. Speaking of fantasy, let's do a fantasy motherfucking update. Fantasy update. And before we get too far into it, I did want to say congratulations to you, sir, for getting off the schneid.
Thank you. No longer in last place.
No. It's about time. And Just checking up on mine. All right. Standings. And yeah, 2Ks is still undefeated. He's locked up in a hell of a game with his dad this week. So maybe that'll change. We got Kayla still she's 6-1-1.
Yeah, I tied her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Came out of nowhere.
It's unreal.
Unreal.
And we've got Scott at 5-3. Troy and I are 4-4, and Carl Gearhart coming out of nowhere, 4-4. And we got Jeremy at 3-5, Matt at 3-5, you at 1-6-1, a half game ahead of Mr. Plummer at 1-7. I mean, hey, that half game is going to be.
Hey, who'd Franklin beat? I can't remember.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about old shit. We don't need to talk about old shit. And speaking of that, the week he beat me was the Texans were playing the Jags. It was week 3, I think, and Deshaun Watson put up like 23 points. He had New England's defense put up like 40.
Now you know how I feel when your quarterback doesn't put up anything for the first few weeks.
Yeah. So it was definitely not the best performance from my guys. And the bad part is, even if I would have swapped around my team, I still would have lost.
Yeah, I decided to start Gardner Minshew the one week, and I ended up tying. He put up 20 points. I was like, damn it. I had Cousins on my bench who had 50. That's breakout game. Like, you got to be kidding me. I just can't buy a win.
Well, let's just be honest. You were enamored with the stash. That's got to be it.
He was putting up good numbers.
Minshew mania.
He was putting up good numbers, and I had Cam Newton who
died.
Yeah, he's not coming back.
No, especially not coming back to Carolina. I think that's a foregone conclusion.
That's up in the air, man. The kid's playing well.
Yes, he is, and he's playing well in a fraction of the price.
Yeah,
fraction of the price, and that seems to be the going. I mean, you look at most of the teams, especially the last few years. Capitalize on that rookie deal, sign big names around him, and see what happens. And then, I mean, you can even go back and look at Joe Flacco in the Ravens.
Yep.
The Ravens were never the same after he signed that big ass contract.
Nope.
And there was probably the one that you could say that the Russell Wilson contract. Yes, they've lost a lot of pieces, but they still keep winning. I think it has a lot to do with Russell Wilson. Whereas I think a lot of it had if the Ravens would have just cut bait with Flacco back then instead of signing him to that huge contract with that defense, and I mean that you're looking at, depending on obviously who they get there, but there's been a lot of good draft picks between then and now, and maybe they were patient enough, and they've got Jackson now, so, and that's just to remind everybody, because I'm really, really confident in this Onions pick. I do have Baltimore beating New England tonight, so I'm pretty stoked about that. Because anytime any opportunity I can pick against TB12, I will. Will I win a lot of them? Nope. But it's always fun. And then when I am right, it's even more fun. All right, Mr. Christian, is there anything else you want to add? Any final thoughts?
Nope. I'm all good.
All right. Well, I think the world learned a lot. I want to thank you for coming on again. That maybe we can go a couple months without Kyle going on vacation, and we can actually bring you on and have
Good luck.
The three of us can bullshit again. And the world also learned that you read a book.
Yeah. So. I've read many books. I actually enjoy reading, but people don't think I do.
Well, all right. Like I said, thanks again for coming and filling in, brother. You're always welcome. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.